Okay, can everybody see my screen? Are we good there? Okay, cool. Um, I'm way in the beginning of what I have here. Okay, so like I said, we're gonna do the 3 hours training. This part's gonna be really more over research and rapport. And I really want to go over like why we're doing this, what are objectives for everything that we're doing here. We want to make sure that we're increasing our appointments, not near as important as increasing our presentations, because that's for me, that's my number one driving factor. What I believe is the most important thing of anything that we do is increasing the amount of presentations that we can get into. Because one, I know that if we get into more presentations, that means that we're going to close more cases simply because one, our policy products are going to sell ourselves. And we got a great group of people here that, work really hard on, knowing their scripts, working on knowing our product, different things like that. If we're using our benefit fact sheet correctly, we should be closing the crap out of all of our presentations. So the more presentations we can get into, that's going to increase our closed cases, which is going to the very obvious one is going to make us more money. I know that a majority of people in here are wanting our leaders are wanting to be in leadership. So this is something that's going to, if you are, increasing the amount of cases you're closing, that means you're increasing your income. That means that you're growing your team all around if you're wanting to go into management. Um, Whatever it was. When I first got started, really all I cared about is room for growth, because I had been printing t-shirts for the last 6 years, and in 2 years I was as high up as I could possibly go. So for me, this opportunity meant that I had a room, like I had the opportunity to move up. And if I'm not to toot my own horn, but I think that I'm a very good example of that in this. I've only been with Liberty National for a little over 3 years. I've actually been in this travel position for over a year now. After 2 years, they sent me on the road to travel around, help out agencies, do what I could, and help make sure that the leadership is training people the right way. So the opportunity is there within the agency and just in general. So let me go ahead and keep getting into it. So why should we actually add research to our routes? And guys, I'm not saying this to like call you out or to not call you out. If you're not putting research on your routes, you're setting yourself up for not setting yourself up for success correctly. If you're in management and you don't have research on your routes, you're not setting your agents up correctly for success because they don't see you using the research and they don't see how they can actually use it and apply it. There's a reason why our scripts say, I actually did some research before coming in here. That is a very big part of our system. And I feel like it can get looked over. We've got a lot of things going on where, we've got meetings on Mondays, we've got, pack calls to make, we've got all these different things going on. And a lot of times it seems like this research gets thrown to the wayside. And the agencies that I see really focusing on this research, making sure that, those good qualified leads have that good research with them. These are the ones that I see that are just skyrocketing. These are the ones that I see that are, they have agents averaging at least a closed case a week and different things like that. So there's so much of this that, the number one reason for research obviously is to build rapport, so that we can help create a meaningful conversation. So much of this, it separates us from other salespeople that walk through our door every single day. And I'm going to tell you, I know that we say this research 1,000% separates us. I actually poached somebody from Colonial. I had one of my friends from high school, hadn't seen in years, talked to his brother, and he was working for Colonial, and he was closing maybe a case every 2 months, he said, with Colonial. He was not doing very well. The training wasn't there. There was just a lot of different things. Well, he got out in the car with me. We did his training. In his first 6 weeks, he closed 5 cases. And this was the big thing that really, really changed for him is, what they do? They talk about the landscape and they talk about how cool the office is, and that's how they train them to do it. They don't train them to build good relationships with people. They don't train them to build this actual research on each of our leads so that people don't think that we're just another salesman that went down every single business every single day. I want people to understand that I specifically stopped in your business today and did research on you because you might qualify for our Worksite Advantage program. And that is why I'm in here today. I'm not stopping at every single business that we talk to or different things like that. Um, Not only that, it's going to build confidence before we're going into the business because we don't have to worry about that decision maker coming out and figuring out how to pull something out of our pocket and build rapport with them because there's a very big difference between gatekeeper rapport and decision maker rapport. That gatekeeper rapport is 1,000%. It is that family, occupation, recreation. It's very observational rapport. But our decision maker rapport, that needs to be a little bit more addressed as far as it needs to be more specific. It needs to be more questions about their business. It needs to be things that they're involved in, where they went to school, different things like that. Because if you have a decision maker that is in the middle of something and they come out and you start talking to them about plants, they are not going to think much of you. They're going to be annoyed by that. Of course, they're going to be annoyed about that. They don't care about the plants in their lobby. They care about moving their business forward. I tell everybody that, you know, uh, business owners' business is like their grandkids. They want to show you pictures. They want to show it off. They want to talk about it. And even if people don't want to admit it, they want to talk about themselves, just straight up there. So you want to know what you're going to talk about before you get into it, of course. So what is some ideal research? I've got some examples too with this, but ideal research is when you uh, create an emotional connection that leads to an open-ended question. So open-ended question. That's the big thing I want you guys to hear here. Is simply because I was not so great at this when I first got started. Just the rapport in general was somewhere where I did not strive. And I was frustrated. 1,000% I was frustrated like almost every single day because I'm like, I know I can talk to people. I got into this position because I like people. I have good interactions with people all the time. Why can I not build these relationships when I'm going into these businesses? One, I was making statements at people. I would be like, hey, I saw this. This is really cool. And they're like, cool, what do you want? I wasn't getting them engaged in the conversation. So we have to make sure everything is an open-ended question. So, where they went to college, because for some reason I can't say alma mater right. I think I got it that time. The history of the company, was it family owned? Did it start in a garage? Any awards that they have, make sure, any in-depth detail about the company's profile or what they do. Just really what are you curious about? Like I always say I'm a curious little George running around just with these decision makers trying to figure out things that I don't know about, that I want to learn about, different things like that. I'm getting ahead of myself there too. But so really adding this research to our leads, um, add research that you can connect with and ask. So this is for an example of like a family-owned business. So some research, an example of this would be, hey, I saw your business is family run. What generation are we on? That's very simple. That one's easy. How did you get involved in the company? Did this know, like, if it's family owned, how did you get involved with the company? If it's not, one of the family members, if it is somebody that's a family member, like, did you know this was always going to be something that you were going to take over, or is this something that you kind of fell into? This one helps. This one is probably what I get the most people engaged on. That last one right there is, hey, did you always know you were going to take this over? Well, no, not really. It just kind of ended up being that way. Like, oh, okay, well, what were you doing before this? Or, that normally leads into a lot more questions and different things like that. So where can we actually find this? I've actually narrowed this down. When I started this position, there was like 7 of these things. These are where I personally have found the best research. Obviously, their website, we all know you can go there about me. That's very simple, easy. We understand that. Now, where I have really got some fun research and had a good time is off people's Facebook, their Instagram, their social media. a lot of times their business is like their business profile, and then their Facebook is where they get to show how much fun they are and different things like that. That's why us as, like even like Globe Life, we're doing TikToks, we're doing all this stuff. Like this shows a lot more of our personality, and we can ask questions on different things. I've played ping pong with decision makers over whether they were going to let me present or not. I've went through and actually done the dipping of like cups and stuff like that just from asking questions. And this is the stuff that really makes this job fun too. I know that it can be hard to get told no quite a few times throughout the day. A lot of these things were stuff that I was like, hey, actually, I know I've got a couple more walk-ins, but in 3 walk-ins, I get to ask so and so about their ping pong table, or I get to ask them why they work with the Wounded Warrior Project, or whatever it is. If you're not using LinkedIn for research, please do. It is honestly so easy. They literally go on there just to brag about themselves. That is all LinkedIn is. It is like, hey, come look how great I am. I think of like the Anchorman, like everyone come see how good I look. Like that's what I think of when I think about LinkedIn when I go through stuff. So let's make sure we're using LinkedIn for that. Google reviews, a lot of times this is a last ditch effort because somewhere, it's somebody that owns a manufacturing business. He's been around since 1970. He doesn't have, any sort of online presence at all. A lot of times they'll still have some Google reviews, so we can bring that up. Now, if they have absolutely um, no online presence, they don't have any Google reviews, different things like that. Personally, what I've been recommending to people is get on ChatGPT and you can literally ask it, hey, what are a couple open-ended questions for for this type of business? And it will. It's crazy. It will give you a couple open-ended questions for you to be able to ask them. So whatever you need to do to be prepared, just use your resources, guys. Technology is terrifying because, the AI thing is terrifying, but I promise you can use it to help you too as well. Okay. So what actually is in it for you when you actually build this rapport? So this is a really critical component for successful client-seller relationship. If we're not building relationships with people, they are again going to think that we are just like everybody else that came in. My AD always told me you had to earn your right to rebuttal. Because if you don't have a relationship with them at all, you do sound like you are trying to either be confrontational, you sound like you are trying to tell them how to run their business that, is successful or not successful. So much of what we do really comes around these relationships that we're building with everyone. So it provides open communication. It's going to develop trust. So much of everything that we're doing is people putting us through the ringer to figure out whether they can trust us, that we're confident enough that we can, really take care of their employees. Everybody has been burned by insurance. I don't care if it's your homeowner's insurance, your auto insurance, sometimes life insurance, whatever it is. Everybody's been burnt in some way, shape, or form. So we have to develop this trust because this is going to foster the client's desire to actually participate. When you have a good relationship with these people, they're not going to cancel those enrollments on you. They're going to pay their bill on time. They're not going to let people cancel when they're within their year mark. So much of everything that we do comes down to these relationships that we build. So if you don't take anything away from anything, is please build these relationships so that they can trust you enough to take care of their employees. So I actually pulled this off of someone's route that it's an agency that I work with um, on what it should really look like as far as your research looks. So, like I said, I guess I didn't tell you guys for some reason. I guess it's the next slide. So, what me personally, what I would like to see in research, what I think is going to be most beneficial for agents, supervisors, just everything in general, having at least two, sometimes three, even four open-ended questions. Like I don't want copied and pasted stuff in the research. We might as well pull up and start researching when we're at the business. This is going to save us time so we don't have to do that in the field. And two, this is going to be for me, I had to have this stuff. I had to have an open-ended question to ask this decision maker because when I first started out, I didn't see a whole lot of them. So when they did, I froze up, or just didn't know what I needed to do to help. So I had to put these open-ended questions in there to really build those relationships. So this agent, he's actually 20 years old. He actually just got promoted to a GA. He closes on average a case every other. No, I think it was we got it down to he closes a case every single week. Um, isn't I'm not saying anything, but not is not the most outgoing person in the world. Um, he uses this, and like I said, he's averaging a closed case every single week because this is what he's using. He's building these good relationships, and he follows the system. So I see you hold yourself to exceptional standards in the industry. How would you say that's contributed to your success over time? Wow, that was a lot of S's with these Invisalign. Um, so what does your process for welding certification look like? Like something basic like that. Is there a difference between welding copper versus stainless steel? That's actually something even me, I would be kind of curious about. I would have no idea. I have friends that weld. I don't weld. I did 1 year in ag class. So that's about all I've got. Did you always imagine going into this industry? You know what I mean? Like that's something that can go one way or the other. They're like, oh, yeah, I always knew I was going to do this because my dad did or whatever. And someone's like, yeah, you think I went to school and decided I wanted to be a welder? You know what I mean? Because I mean, I tell people all the time, I mean, when they were going around school saying, what do you want to be when you grow up? I definitely didn't say I wanted to sell life insurance. I guarantee you guys that. What kind of questions should it really look like? So, when we do have this research and all of these things that we can ask these open-ended questions, we got to make sure we're delivering it the right way, right? So, we want to make sure that we are making good eye contact with our audience to really create that sense of intimacy and involvement. I am not saying stare through somebody's soul. We need a good mixture. You don't want to look like a creeper going into these businesses by any means by just strictly staring at them. But make good eye contact when you're shaking their hand. Have your chest back. Be confident. Weave some relatable stories into your rapport that are going to make the message more memorable and impactful, whether it's, some other businesses that we've worked with like that, personal stories that you have. If, you're younger, you haven't done a lot of different jobs, or, you don't have a lot of different things, look up some things about it, ask your management, hey, what's some ways that we've helped clients in this industry, just ask the questions and try to get the knowledge that you can. And then encourage them to ask you questions. The decision makers that are asking you questions, those are ones that are actually caring about their employees. They're caring about what's going on. Like, don't cut them off in the middle of their question. Make sure that we're actively listening. And please use other examples of companies we work with in the same line of work. If you don't know and some businesses that we work with in that area, get with your management. They can tell you some businesses to be able to name drop in this. I know that last week we talked about Jason Adams, so I'm going to go ahead and bring one up here. If you ask him what he did to get all of the businesses that he talked about that he has, he used going to be crazy that I say this, referrals. We talk about him every week on all of our stuff, but he also said name dropping. He names drops everybody that we work with around if he's going into somewhere. So name drop, make sure that we know who we're working with and what area we're in. So, how to build rapport without being super awkward. We need to know who we actually are looking for. With how many decision makers you guys see, like I said last week, I'm super impressed by. I know that you guys are pat calling the right way. You know what I mean? Like that's one thing that does tell me is that you guys do know who you're looking for when you go into places. So that's awesome. I love that. Make sure to use the decision maker's name when you're talking to them. Make sure you're bringing that back up for a couple different reasons. It makes it a lot more personal. And for me, I have really hard time trouble remembering people's names. I mean, when I walk out of somewhere, I'm typing it in my notes. Whatever I've got to do, I'm just saying it over and over again in my head. The more you say it in the business, the more you're going to remember it. And everything should be mostly about them. They should be, when it comes to obviously the presentation we're presenting, but when we're building rapport, it should be way less about us and way more about them. We should be asking more questions, and they should be doing the majority of the talking. Find some common experiences. If they've done anything, that you see in that you can relate to, make sure we're doing that. I've already talked about open-ended questions like 3 times, so I'm not going to go through that one again. Compliments. I know that it can be a little bit awkward to give people compliments. Really, I can only tell you guys from the male side of things. It is okay to give people compliments 1,000% if you like something. If you're a male, in most situations, I followed up whether you have a significant other or not with, oh, hey, that's a really pretty necklace. I think that my fiance would like that, or my significant other would really like that. You don't come off as creepy, and it's okay to compliment some people in that situation. So, people love compliments. They love talking about themselves. Like I said, obviously the family, occupation, and recreation there. So, some effective delivery techniques when it comes to all of these things. And this comes down to one, our rapport and also with our scripts, just so everybody knows. So, just in general, this is a powerful tool when it comes to public speaking, talking to people, group presentations, everything that we do. This is stuff that I still work on all the time with my trainings. I make myself watch my webinars and wonder how many more times I can say throughout the whole presentation, whatever it is. So we want to make sure we've got good pitch variation. Now, when it comes to scripts, if you don't know your scripts, you're not going to be able to do this. When it comes to rapport, be a little bit more mindful of what they're doing, different things like that. So we can really have good tone and fluctuation when we're going in on really hitting on certain points and different things like that. This next one, volume control, this one hits home quite a bit because I pretty much yell everything I say. So there's two ways of this most of the time that I see. You're either really loud like me, and when I had a worksite trainer go out with me, he said I was like the Kool-Aid man. And I kicked the door in, and everybody knew I was in there, and it was a little bit too much for some people. Now there are some people that, if you're a little bit more quiet, a little bit more soft-spoken, you can't go in whispering in an auto body shop. Own the room. Make sure if you need to raise your volume, you should know. If you need to lower your volume and people tell you that you talk a lot and you're loud like me, maybe bring it down a little bit. So just make sure that you're really matching the energy in a business. Even if you are soft spoken, there are some times for that, and different businesses and different things like that. I don't know. I forgot that I had eye contact on the other one. Like I said, don't scare people. Make sure you have good purposeful gestures. Your shoulders are back. For me, I have to actually bring down my gestures a little bit because I talk with my hands the entire time. And actually, when I had not only do I watch my webinars, I had my fiance watch a few of them, and she's like, I have no idea what you're saying because you're in the corner like this the whole time. So I almost have to sit on my hands. So whatever it is, like personally, it is like make sure that we're having good gestures with everybody. We have good posture. If you go in with your shoulders down and your head down into businesses, and especially talking to decision makers, they're going to eat you alive. We have to have our shoulders back, our shoulders back, our chest out. We have to come in with confidence in everything that we do because we've got to realize too, these decision makers are vetting you. If you come in and you can't be confident with them, they know you're not going to be confident with their agents and not their agents, their employees, and they are not going to let you come in because they know they're going to eat you alive. They know that you're not going to get the respect from them or command the room. And it's going to be a big waste of time because nobody's going to pick up policies from you. So remember that they're vetting you. I know that when I was in the manufacturing and definitely the construction, that when the insurance people came in, we put them through the ringer. Like I would not have want to came and enrolled my business that we worked at. If you want to know the truth, we were rough. And I think about that and how honestly that the insurance agents handled that very professionally, and we picked up a lot of policies because they would handle it well. They handled us well, and also control our expressions. Just because a decision maker might be a little bit more grumpy, might be a little bit more abrasive, different things like that. Make sure we're still smiling, staying professional. Some of my very best clients were the ones that weren't so nice to me when I first got started. Some of the best, and I actually have a story at the on our next slide, so I'll wait for that when it comes to controlling our expressions and making sure. But just remember when we're out talking to business owners, gatekeepers, honestly, if you're off work and you're talking to, your friends about it, make sure that, you remember that you're not only representing yourself, you're representing Tony, and you're representing Globe Life as a whole. So let's just make sure that we're being professional and controlling our expressions throughout everything. And I cannot do two trainings in a row without talking about referrals, guys. So I wish I could. I know you see this on the webinar all the time. This is the only cheat code we have to this. This is the only shortcut that you can take. And I know that's hard to hear, and I know that there's between pat calls and walk-ins and different things if you cut corners on that stuff and don't do that stuff correctly, you will not be as successful. If you get referrals, like I said, only cheat code we have to this. In my own personal experience, like we were talking about controlling our emotions, I had a health department I went into the first time, and the administrator was short-staffed and was working at the front. So I went and asked for her, and she ripped me a new one. She was like, you came in, I'm busy, I don't have time for this. No, I don't, I'm not interested in anything you're doing. Can you just leave? And I was just like, yes, ma'am. You have a great rest of your day. I actually came back the next week. I actually brought them some donuts because that interaction was so rough. I came in, I brought them some donuts, and I said, Cheryl, I know that last week was not the best time. You were super busy. I apologize that you were busy and I came in on that, but I really do think that if you sat down with me and gave me that 10 to 15 minutes, you'll see how I can really help your employees. And it doesn't cost your guys' organization anything. And so I finally set up that appointment. She couldn't do it right then. We set up an appointment. By the end of that appointment, we were best friends. I mean, she absolutely loved me. We were joking around, having a great time. Um, they had I think they had 9 people, and I wrote right around $9,000 at that case, just because she had me do a group presentation before I enrolled, and then she literally said, "Everyone, please pay attention to what's going on. Please pick up some of these policies. I really think a lot of what we're bringing in can make sure that your families are protected." She literally said that when I was doing my group presentation. So that helped me out a lot. That really built the trust with that. I get done with that enrollment, and I'm like, hey, who else, obviously, who we have a good relationship. Who else can I help out with? That do you know that would benefit from all this too as well? Well, she gave me 5 golden tickets to 5 other health departments. And I presented at each 5 of those. I actually closed 4 out of those 5 just because honestly, one of them didn't even want me to present all the way. One was like, "Oh yeah, no, if Cheryl's going with it and you got through to her, it'll be beneficial for us too." So remembering that those tougher DMs, one, their name carries a lot of weight, and if you can get through to them, you can get through to a lot of people. But like I said, I closed 4 out of 5 of those, and I actually would have closed the 5th. They just wanted me to come in during their enrollment period, and then I started this travel job. So these referrals, I wish I would have done it more. When I was in the field, I probably would have closed a bunch more cases than I did because when I did, it worked. So whatever you have to do in this situation to make sure that you are actually doing the referrals. I know a lot of people, they're almost stapling a referral sheet to the back of their closing paperwork so they think about it. It's just like everything else. If we don't start doing it, it does seem and feel uncomfortable until you start doing it. It's just like going in, building rapport, and talking to gatekeepers and decision makers. It gets more comfortable. The more you do it, the more it'll be natural. I got 5 referrals this week. And there was a day that we didn't even present to somebody, and actually the one we presented we didn't get. It was one where we got 2 from somebody that they didn't end up actually qualifying. They had somebody quit. I can't even remember the other situations now, but like I said, guys, this is the only cheat code that we have when it comes down to anything that we do. So let's make sure we're building good routes. We have good research, and we're actually asking those open-ended questions into the and asking for those referrals. So I wanted to get through that in like 30 minutes since we got everybody prepared to have questions and different things like that. If we could start out with when it comes down to research or report everything first and then get into everything else, that would be fantastic. But what does everybody have as far as questions or different things that they could use from me? And actually, I'm going to stop screen sharing so I can see everybody.
So this is a perfect time, you guys, like we did in training last week, where if you have a different industry that's difficult for you or a situation where you have a tough gatekeeper or a tough DM that you're having a hard time figuring out what to ask them, this is the perfect opportunity to throw that suggestion out and see if we've got some ideas.
So I went into a business and it was like the end of the day and it was more of like construction business and the guy was super peeved, like just that I was even there and like yelled at me, told me I shouldn't come in there if I don't have an appointment because it was super rude and like I don't know, it was very overwhelming. And I'm not gonna give up on it. Obviously, like I'm trying to contribute to that have him just having a bad day. But how do I go about calling him and making that appointment and making that okay?
I'm still not gonna call and make an appointment. I'm gonna be straight up with you. I do nothing over the phone. I do nothing over the phone. I do nothing over email. Every single thing, if I'm gonna, I nobody gets an email, nobody gets my business card, nobody gets anything until I present it to them at least. Just because one, we can't build those relationships with people. Through a phone or through email or different things like that. Me personally, something like that, I'm not saying you need to go buy a dozen donuts, but I know a lot of agents that will, make little goodie bags depending on what time of year it is. Like go to Dollar Tree, get some little bags, put some candies in it, be like, and just go in and be like, hey, I understand that like you had a lot going on. That was the wrong day. But again, I really do think that I could benefit your employees. I just wanted to drop this off just to apologize for, taking you off that time. And really ask for the time then and then have your appointment times and be like, hey, I really do think I could benefit your employees if you just give me the chance. I've got this time and this time available. Which one works best for you? You know what I mean? I'm not, like I said, it doesn't have to be $20 you're spending every time. It can be a little goodie bag with, a dollar's worth of candy in it. But a lot of times I've seen that kind of stuff just mend things and just be professional and just know that that's not don't take it personal. It's not a reflection on you. Honestly, he's just missing out on, protecting his employees. And some people are just like that. That's why we hit so many different businesses. And if there's going to be somebody that's like that to me, they're probably like that to their customers, and I may not want to do business with them, and that's okay.
Thank you.
No problem.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What is the ideal way to disarm like a very apprehensive gatekeeper? Because with building rapport, the gatekeeper is something that I kind of struggle with a little bit on the front end versus the back end.
Okay. Um, One, I would try to get better when it comes to that. There's all sorts of podcasts. Zig Ziglar has a book, and I can't remember the exact name of it. It's like how to win friends and influence people. That one helped me out a lot when it came to building relationships with gatekeepers and different things like that. Um, if you know you're bad at something, honestly, just doing all the research you possibly can. I would watch YouTube videos. I would do all the podcasts, whatever it was, whatever I was struggling in. There is so
Yeah.
much free information out there. I would work on that. And honestly, if they're very apprehensive and different things like that, a lot of times just making sure we're actually disengaging. Now, there's still going to be some that are going to,
Yeah.
no matter what. But I've seen it take the wind out of a lot of people's sails if you're, hey, you're even if they're cutting you off on that, being like, hey, could you let Dave know that Zane's here to see him, and then just go sit down. Like, don't be afraid. Like, make yourself comfortable. I'll move chairs around in their conference room. I don't care. Like, I want to look like I'm supposed to be there. You know what I mean? So a lot of
Yeah.
times what it comes down to is you kind of look like you already aren't supposed to be in there. So they're gonna keep driving through with those questions. So act and know that you're supposed to be in there and you're helping people out
Okay.
would be my best recommendation for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Another recommendation I would have for you, Jericho, is to not just like learn the information, but also to role play. I think that was one of the difficulties I had was because whenever you walk in, the gatekeeper is immediately going to say, "How can I help you?" Right? And so then we are disarmed and we're like, "Oh, can I talk to the DM?" Right? Or how are you doing today? And they're like irritated that you did that. And so if you can answer that question, like when you're role playing with your SA, you want to have them ask you that question and kind of be a little bit direct. That'll help you get practice of that. Because if they say, "How can I help you?" and you can say, "Actually, you can help me. I did a little bit of research on you." And now we're not going to use our DM questions here, but we did a little bit of research on here. And I know you guys do landscaping. So do you actually go out and do any of that? Or are you stuck in the office all the time? Okay. So you're not really asking the DM research question, but you're going to disarm them because their question is, "How can I help you?" They want to get you out of there as fast as you can, but you're going to still ask a question to get them off their kilter. Does that make sense? And
Yeah.
role playing it is going to be extremely helpful because the first time you say it should not be in front of the person that's important. It should be
Yeah.
SA or another agent before you go in and word vomit or stumble over your words, because that happens to
Sure.
every person. So
Yeah.
seeing those words is going to make you feel much more confident all day long.
Yeah, and I'm gonna piggyback off of that even more. Just remember that those decision makers too, not decision makers, those gatekeepers, it is their job to figure out what you're there for. Like it's their job to figure out where they need to navigate you. A lot of times it's not that they're not even wanting to try to talk to you. They're just their entire job is when you come in, it's their job to ask you what you're here for, what they can help you with. So it's completely fine to navigate away from that. Like she said, like actually, I was doing some research. Like that's fantastic. That's exactly what I would do. Another kind of little tip and trick, make sure you're always initiating the conversation. I don't care if you walk into a business and it's one of those where like the desk is all the way back there and be like, hey, how we doing? Whatever you got to do. Because if you don't start the conversation, you can't control where the conversation goes.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Okay, what's up?
Um, I was out with an agent and we were heavily in the city. We had a lot of gates, like big fences with razor wire and actually locks on all of the gates. So you say you don't do anything over the phone. Would you just ignore those businesses, or how would you get in front of even a gatekeeper in there?
I mean, if they got a call button, that's all we can do. Again, it is hard to build those relationships, but we still got to make an attempt at, but actually using that gatekeeper script through the speaker box, that helps a whole lot. Um, Trying to build those reports, it's going to be harder. Honestly, a lot of times though, with those types of businesses too, um, they might be a little bit bigger than you need to be going into as well. I'm not saying that every business is that way, but really focusing on those 30 and under employees, because once they get over that, that's when they've got very good trained gatekeepers. That's when they've got the money to put the bells on there and all the different things like that. So um, I'm not saying that you can't close businesses in that area, because it was kind of the same thing with Springfield. They said it was oversaturated, you couldn't close cases, and that's where we closed the most cases. But if you're struggling with that, maybe, one day, 2 days a week, you're a little bit closer, 2 days a week, you're traveling a little bit farther out. That was kind of what I did. I personally I traveled on Tuesdays more. Tuesdays where I would travel a little bit farther, and that way I knew, and I was going back to the same place on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so I could set those appointments for Tuesdays, for Thursdays, and then Wednesdays I could set those for Fridays. So just honestly, just be persistent, but yeah, make sure you know the size of businesses that you're going into, and make sure we're having a good mix of those two as well.
Yep.
I have a question. I feel like I do pretty good with building rapport with my decision makers, but because they don't tell me no, but they just like push me off. Like, oh, I'm doing my taxes, like I'm super busy, or come back in April, or yada yada yada. So like, is there any other rebuttal besides, of course, the rebuttal that we have, that's like, hey, one of your employees could die, next week. Not that I don't say it exactly like that, but
Yeah.
like, is there
Uh-huh.
any other like tips and tricks to create a sense of urgency for them?
Honestly, not a whole lot, if you want to know the truth, because everybody's got stuff that comes up. Everybody's got different things like that. Just showing back up, that next week, different things like that. And also just again, it kind of comes down to those relationships. If you're getting good, like not just surface level relationships with that decision maker, it's a lot harder for them to push you off in that situation. And because if you hear that a couple times, they keep pushing you off and you've got a good relationship with them. I've literally been like, please just give me a chance. Like, just give me 10 or 15 minutes, please, because like I like you, you like me, and I know I can help your employees. And if we keep kicking this can down the road, we're just going to keep kicking it. So come on, let's just do this real quick. Be upfront with them about it.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
also, is that your house? Is that you with is that real plants back there? That's out of
Yes.
control. That's
Yeah, I
aggressive amount of green.
got some plant action going on. Yeah. We're plant lovers on my team.
I can see that. I'm
Yes.
I'm sure gatekeeper report is pretty easy then.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. All right. Anybody else? I know we went through quite a few different things last week, so okay. Well, if that's it, I'll probably go ahead and let you guys get back to doing what you're doing. Obviously not next week, the week after. I will be there on that Monday. You guys won't see my bald head next week though. I'm going to a concert in Kansas City, so I will be gone. But you've all got my number, or if you don't, get it from somebody that took a picture of it. If you guys have questions that come up throughout the weeks or anything like that, feel free to reach out to me anytime. But besides that, you all have a great rest of your week and weekend.
Thanks, Zane.
No
Thank
problem. Have a
you.
good night.
Appreciate your time.